werewolves in monkey costumes, we saw Howling II, Your Sister's a Werewolf. So you know what that means.
Schwarzenegger grow a baby in his belly, rock a rhinestone vest while ripping Justin to Kelly, or maybe see a burlesque show with Nick Crow and take a boat with speed to hitting cruise control. J-Man, Big Paul in the beautiful June, gonna take you from the goob all the way to the room. Ran the games of Street Fighter, helped to blow off steam, just a sucker punch the odd life of Timothy Green. Sharknado, the birdemic, how we staying alive. They call it in the badass and he's on the line, cranking 88 minutes cause they cool as ice, cause a bad Jim Varney looking kinda nice. Paul and June getting literal, Jason is getting laid. June is making sure all the monkey shots getting paid. They judge a bunch of movies while they're making the grade. Here's a real question for you, how did this get made? That's a good look, Haru.
What's that smell?
Hey everybody, welcome to How Did This Get Made? Matinee Monday, a video series looking back at some old episodes of How Did This Get Made. We've taken them out of the vault. We've put them back in our How Did This Get Made feed so you can listen to them with commercials. If you want to listen to them commercial free, you can do that too. Just sign up for Stitcher Premium. Use the offer code BONKERS for a free month. But let's not worry about that. Let's talk about this movie where we have Stephanie Allynne and Tig Notaro joining us live from Washington, D.C. This was an interesting episode because it's the first time we've ever played the movie before we actually did the podcast. We did this at the Bentzen Ball, and the audience was rowdy. They were not particularly happy with Tig, who fell asleep during the film and didn't really remember a lot of it. But I have to say, for someone who didn't see the film, her takes were pretty solid. This movie is bonkers. First of all, they ran out of werewolf costumes, or they didn't have werewolf costumes, so they just used leftover monkey costumes from Planet of the Apes. Instead of silver bullets, they use silver spikes. And Christopher Lee was so upset that he had a complete meltdown. And we actually play a clip of Christopher Lee talking about his horrible experience of working on this film. But here, take a listen to a little bit of Howling II, Your Sister's a Werewolf. Just to put something out there, two things about Christopher Lee. He only agreed to do this movie because it was a werewolf movie. He never done a werewolf movie.
Just checking him off the list.
Check him off the list. Also admitted that when the other actors were on set, not Jamie Lee Curtis and Ben, he would walk off set because he was so distraught by their acting. So that's there. And then finally, when he did do Gremlins 2, before he accepted the role, he apologized to the director of The Howling 1 for being associated with The Howling 2. These are things that we know about.
Wow.
Wow.
So they go to this, and I want to keep on saying vampire because everything about this movie reads vampire to me. It's like they're werewolves, but to me, I understand a werewolf story as being like, I turn into a werewolf, I don't know what I'm doing.
I was bitten.
But I'm wild, I'm not this person. But here, when they turn into a werewolf, they're just kind of like hairy versions of themselves that seemingly are perfectly communicative. Like they're not wild.
They're reasonable.
Right. Yeah, they have some sort of
They are hungry and they attack people, but they seem much more interested in werewolf on werewolf orgies. They don't even seem to want too much of humans other than to feed on them every once in a while. They really want to get down to the bone zone with a bunch of other hairy werewolves.
The werewolf sex in this movie
is gross times a million.
Insane.
It's insane.
It's insane.
It's like being in the worst acting class.
Yes.
Where it's like, yeah, you're a wolf. Arr, arr. And they're not even kissing, they're just like, arr, arr.
You know what I feel like?
Now.
I felt like because the werewolf sex, they're all made up in hair. I feel like they couldn't touch each other because the hair would come off. I feel like the special effects dictated the fact that they couldn't touch each other, so all the sex scenes are like, ah, ah, right up against, but not. There was no physical contact whatsoever, except the hair. The hair was beyond gross.
Yeah.
It's cheap, and but it's like they keep on.
It's cheap. Yes, it is.
Another side note about this movie is that they're werewolves. It's a werewolf movie. They got sent a crate of costumes that said Planet of the Apes on it. And they opened it up, and it's all ape costumes. And the director's like, it's a werewolf movie. They can't be apes. And the studio said, you'll make it work. So the reason why
I have an update. It
most
did not
of
work.
most of the werewolves just look like straight up monkeys.
Do you know what the budget was?
The budget, we looked around, we could not find it. I know how much it made on DVD, but that doesn't seem to be
How much is that?
like $57,000.
This is a movie that is about werewolves that the movie Teen Wolf makes look like Teen Wolf has much better special effects, and Teen Wolf, it looks terrible.
But I feel like it's that chewing of scenery. Like even the sex scene is like, oh, they're so sexual, but it's not. It's
No.
like it's
so
like what,
gross.
Like when you see an orgy in a movie, like, ooh, that's an orgy. But then when
Wait,
you
what
go
do
to
you
an
like?
orgy, I imagine you'd be like,
Wait a minute.
ew, gross.
Wait a minute.
No, you know what I'm
wait,
saying?
What do you, wait. When you
That's
see a
an
movie and
orgy.
an orgy in a movie,
I
you're
don't know, like, I'm just saying that there's something
ooh,
like-
that's an orgy. That's what you're like?
No, I'm just saying, like, in a movie, it's like sexualized in a way that seems like
I wish June was here.
I have a point, which is like when you see it in a movie, there's something like at least sexual about it.
Yeah.
But then I guess in reality it would be really gross. And this movie is the really gross. It's like, oh, an orgy's happening. I feel uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be here.
Well, like having someone sleeping on me and then like seeing like these weird boobs and it's like, and then they turn into a werewolf and it's not sensual and you're just like, and it is that feeling where you're so aware of their like acting of like, I'm like hot. And then like as a viewer, you're like, I don't know what a body looks like. I don't know what sex is. Like, I can't wrap my mind
And
around.
meanwhile, I'm just like,
And you're, like I would be lying there thinking like, if Tig woke up and just looked at this, like, what is this?
it's unnerving.
how
because,
would I catch her up?
Because even dogs don't just like circle each other like like, and they're just like they're almost
Right.
like posing for each other. It is the world's worst acting class sex scene.
And it happens midway in where all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, they just like show like a boob. And then it's like nudity and sex where you're like, I guess that's sex.
The orgy is
The threesome, they have the threesome,
Right.
they have sex for every sex scene. I was like, ugh, I continued to write, this is the grossest thing I've ever seen.
This movie was quite the fun one to do. Stephanie Allynne, a hilariously funny person, and kind of filling in for June in this episode because there was no June, but June does give a third opinion just based on the title of Howling II, Your Sister Is a Werewolf. But there's a lot to unpack here. Space suits. This movie shot behind. This movie was shot in a former communist country, so there were some things that that affected production. A fun listen to. A lot of history in this episode. I can't wait for you to take a look back at Howling II. And if you want to listen to more episodes of How This Game Made, like I said, sign up for Sister Premium and come out and check us out on the road. We are on tour at the end of October, and we also are going on the road in the beginning of December. So go to hdtgm.com for tickets and our movie information. We'll see you on the road. And if you don't want to join us on the road, we'll just see you here next Monday for another Matinee Monday video presentation. I'm Paul Scheer, and of course, you know that because you're on my YouTube page, and continue to subscribe, like, do all the things that you do. See you next time for Matinee Monday.